All right, everybody, buckle up, because today we're diving deep into the world of Bitcoin.
Deep, deep down to its origins.
Yeah, none of that price ticker, laser eye stuff.
We're going all the way back to 2008,
Back to the source code itself.
to that white paper that dropped like, well,
A bomb.
yeah, I was going to say a philosophical grenade into the financial system, courtesy of the one and only, the enigmatic Satoshi Nakamoto.
See, now I love a good origin story. And the thing about online transactions before Bitcoin, I mean, you needed banks.
Credit card companies, the whole 9 yards.
Right, this whole system built on trust, right?
A system that, yeah, it works, but let's face it, it's got baggage,
Mhm.
fees, fraud, not to mention someone could just decide you can't access your own money.
Okay, so we need a system, but can we do it without having to put so much, I don't know, faith in it?
Right, that's the question.
I mean, cutting out the middleman entirely, it's almost a little, what's the word?
Anarchist.
Yeah, like paying with cash, but online,
Mm-hmm.
anonymously.
And that, my friend, is precisely what Nakamoto was proposing.
Really? I mean, I always thought that white paper was going to be super technical, something I'd need a PhD in cryptography to decipher.
It's actually surprisingly readable, even if you're not a
Oh.
coding whiz, which I am definitely not.
Okay, so for someone like me then, give me the Satoshi elevator pitch here. What's the core problem they were trying to solve?
Imagine a world where you don't need to rely on those big institutions to handle your money. No banks, no governments, just pure peer-to-peer transactions.
Okay, that's a pretty radical idea when you say it like that.
Right. But the real challenge, the problem Nakamoto was wrestling with, was how do you create a form of digital cash that can't be, well, counterfeited, spent twice? It's not like a physical coin. You can't just, I don't know, check for the watermark.
Right, because with digital, it's just ones and zeros. It seems like you could just copy and paste your way to infinite riches. So how do they wrap their heads around that? Where does blockchain even come in?
Well, it starts with a few crucial concepts, one being digital signatures.
I've heard of those.
It's like, imagine signing a document, but instead of ink, you've got this unique digital fingerprint. That's essentially what verifies you, and not some, shady character pretending to be you.
So in this case, if I'm sending you Bitcoin, my digital signature is proof that it's actually me authorizing the transaction.
Exactly. But, and there's a big but, that doesn't solve everything. We still haven't tackled that double spending problem.
Oh, right, right. Because what's to stop someone from making a copy of their digital signature and going on a wild spending spree?
Precisely. And that right there is where things get really, really interesting.
This is it, folks. This is where we get to the heart of it. The ingenious solution in Nakamoto's white paper. Proof of work.
Now, hold on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Sorry, got a little carried away.
It's just, that's a whole other rabbit hole.
Right, of course. One step at a time.
We got to really make sure we grasp why that double spending problem is such a tough nut to crack, especially with no central authority to keep things in check.
Totally. Don't want our digital utopia to turn into a free-for-all.
All right, so last time we left off, we had this challenge, right? Digital signature is great, but they don't completely solve the problem of, well,
Someone just copying their Bitcoin and spending it like 100 times.
exactly. And I know you're eager to get to the solution, the whole proof of work thing, but honestly, it's such a game changer that it's worth really getting why this double spending problem is such a brain twister.
Yeah, okay, you're right. It's like we kind of take it for granted now, this idea that we can trust digital transactions.
But before Bitcoin, no one had figured out how to do it without some central authority calling the shots. So picture this.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You want to buy something online, but instead of using a credit card, you're using this newfangled digital cash. How do you prove that you haven't already spent those specific digital coins somewhere else?
Right, because unlike handing someone a $5 bill, which you can only do once, it seems like with digital stuff, you could just make endless copies.
And if everyone's running around with infinite copies of their Bitcoin, the whole system falls apart.
Right, hyperinflation, the whole shebang. Okay, so that's the problem, the puzzle that Nakamoto was grappling with.
And this is where it gets really, I don't know, mind-blowingly clever. Because their solution, proof of work, it's not just a technical fix. It's like,
It's almost like a philosophical statement.
totally. Because it's based on this idea that trust shouldn't come from some authority figure, but from the system itself. So how does it work? Well, imagine instead of just digitally signing a transaction, you have to attach something else to it.
Something else, like what, a virtual notary stamp?
Kind of. But instead of a stamp, it's a solution to a really, really hard math problem.
Okay, now you're just messing with me. Math.
I know, but bear with me. So every time someone wants to add a block of transactions to the blockchain, They have to find this special number, a solution to this complex equation.
So it's like a giant Sudoku puzzle that every computer on the network is racing to solve.
Exactly. And the first one to crack the code, they get to add their block to the chain, and they get a reward for their efforts, some Bitcoin. But here's the thing, and this is crucial. It takes real computing power, real energy to find that solution. That's why it's called proof of work.
Because you're proving you put in the effort, you spent the energy.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And because it's so resource intensive, it means that it's really, really hard for someone to cheat the system. They'd have to control a majority of the network's computing power.
So it's like trying to outrun a cheetah. Possible, but highly unlikely.
Exactly. And that, my friend, is how proof of work solves the double spending problem, by making it computationally and economically unfeasible for someone to create a fake version of the blockchain where they get to double spend their Bitcoin.
So, in essence, the system is secured by this massive decentralized network of computers, all competing to solve these complex math problems.
It's kind of beautiful when you think about it, like this
Yeah.
elegant dance between cryptography, economics, and this almost philosophical belief in the power of decentralization.
Okay, you're right. That is pretty wild. But how does this go from like a cool idea to actually changing the world? Welcome back, listeners. So we've gone deep, deep down into the how of Bitcoin, digital signatures, that whole proof of work puzzle solving thing.
But the real magic trick, the thing that makes Nakamoto's paper so revolutionary, isn't the tech itself. It's the implications.
Okay, so what you're saying is Bitcoin, it's not just a new kind of money.
It's a whole new way of thinking about trust.
Right, because normally we're talking banks, governments, big institutions, right? They're the ones we're supposed to trust.
But Bitcoin says, what if we didn't need them? At least not in the same way. What if we could build systems where trust is baked in automatically through the technology itself?
Okay, now that is a mind-bending idea.
It is. And it goes way beyond just money. Think about it. Elections.
Supply chains.
Anything where you need to track something, verify it, make sure it's legit.
You're saying we could use this same technology, this blockchain thing, to create systems that are inherently more transparent, more secure.
Exactly. Imagine a world where, with absolute certainty that your vote was counted fairly, or where you can trace a product back to its source, no questions asked.
So it's about cutting out the middleman, not just in finance, but in, well, everything.
It's about giving people more control, more agency. And that, to me, is the truly revolutionary aspect of Bitcoin. It's not just about the technology, it's about the potential to change the power dynamics, to create a more equitable world.
Okay, so big, big ideas here. But let's be real for a second. This is all still pretty new.
Definitely, we're in uncharted territory here.
And like with any new technology, there are going to be bumps in the road, right? Unintended consequences.
Oh, absolutely. And we need to be mindful of that, to approach this with a healthy dose of caution as well as excitement. Because for all the potential benefits, decentralization also comes with its own set of challenges. Privacy concerns, for one.
Right, and how do you regulate something that's designed to be, well, unregulated?
Exactly. These are complex issues and there's no easy answers. But that's what makes this whole space so fascinating, right? We're at the frontier of something new, something potentially groundbreaking. Yeah. And we're all figuring it out as we go.
And the craziest part is this whole thing, this whole revolution was sparked by, well, we don't even know who.
The mystery of Satoshi Nakamoto.
It just adds to the mystique, doesn't it? This anonymous genius or group of geniuses who drop this bombshell of an idea on the world and then just disappear.
Leaving us all to puzzle over their creation, to try and decipher their true intentions.
It's like a real-life digital treasure hunt.
It is. And in a way, we're all on this quest trying to understand the true potential of Bitcoin, of decentralization, of this whole new paradigm.
So as we wrap up our deep dive, one question I keep coming back to is, what would Satoshi think of all this? The price fluctuations, the laser eyes, the endless debates about the future of Bitcoin.
I'd like to think they'd be more interested in the underlying principles and the way that Bitcoin has sparked this global conversation about trust, about power, about the very nature of our digital lives.
Because ultimately, that's what this is all about. It's not just about money or even technology. It's about reimagining the world, about building something new, something better. And whether or not Bitcoin is the answer, well, that's for all of us to decide. But one thing's for sure, the questions it raises, the possibilities it unlocks, those are here to stay.
And that, I think, is a legacy worth celebrating.
Absolutely. So keep exploring, keep asking questions. And as always, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.